All right, and that's a nice job. So the next step is to do our frequency separation. And I know most of us know how to do frequency separation, but most of us like playing it as actions. It's not bad, but for the sake of this tutorial, I would like to create a frequency separation from scratch for the benefit of those that don't know how to create frequency separation. But before I do that, I think I should just give a little bit of explanation on the whole concept of frequency separation. Frequency separation in Photoshop or in photo editing is a technique that we use or we employ while editing pictures. It helps us to separate our images into two very important components: texture and color. Now, every image you see here like this is made up of two very important components: texture and color. Texture tells us about the details that is all embedded in the picture, ranging from the skin details, the sharpness of the picture, blemishes, what have you. While the color of the picture generally tells us, just as the name implies, the color tells us about the color of the image in general. So frequency separation helps us separate these two things in order to give us more control while working on them individually. With that being said, to separate our images or our image into two components, texture and color, we will do it using a very known or a very widely known frequency separation technique. First of all, we duplicate our layers into two. And to do that, the shortcut of duplicating our layers into two is Ctrl J. Or if you don't want to use Ctrl J, you right click on this layer and you see duplicate layer. And you see, just as the naming of this layer implies background copy, meaning it has copied the background. So what the information that is embedded in this background copy is the same that has been replicated to this our new layer on top. So either you click here to duplicate layer, or just delete that, or you press Ctrl or Command J. All right, you're going to do this into two places. So Ctrl Command J twice. We have two layers. The first thing we do is we off or put off the layer visibility of the topmost layer, and we select the middle layer or the first layer. So next you have to do is to blur this layer. Now we'll go to our filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Now there's a technique in selecting a blur radius. Now some people just go and they just select any blur radius and they just start retouching their pictures. No, there's a technique you use, especially if you want to achieve a very sharp picture. And to select a perfect blur radius for a picture, because not every picture will use the same blur radius. Some pictures are sharper than other pictures. Therefore, the blur radius cannot be generalized. You cannot be using 22222 or 333 or 7, as the case may be. We use different blur radius based on the sharpness of this picture. And what helps us to select the individual blur radius is this technique I'm about to show you right here. So first off, I will zoom into a layer in this my picture, or an aspect of this my picture that is embedded with a lot of details. So you see her forehead here. There's details here. Just zoom out a little bit. Okay, good. So what you do is you start increasing your blur radius gradually until you get to a point where you no longer see these blemishes on her face, but you will still see some very vital aspects of the picture, like her eyes, her nose, her mouth. Enough of talking. Let's get into it. So I'll just start increasing my blur radius gradually. Okay. Now, if you increase your blur radius all the way here, see, we cannot see anything in this picture. It is all blown out. But at this level, we are still seeing the blemishes. So like I said, you gradually increase until the point where you no longer see the blemishes, but you still see vital aspect of the picture. So around 4.7, let's say 5, around 5, around 5, you can see that we can no longer see the blemishes, but we can still see vital aspect of our images, of our image, rather. I know I keep saying images, because I'm used to working bulk pictures all at once. Okay, so the next step, 5 is good. At this point, we can no longer see the blemishes on our face, but we can still see our vital aspects in this picture, like our mouth, our eyes, our nose, and thereabout. So at this point, it's good. We just click on OK. So the next thing we are going to do is to turn on this topmost layer that we put off. Okay, let's rename this first layer color. Now I'm going to explain to you briefly why this is our color layer. Now remember I told you that in frequency separation we separate our image into two distinct layers, the color layer and the texture layer. The texture layer takes care of texture, while the color layer takes care of color, just as their name implies respectively. So why we are blurring this color layer is because we don't want details or texture in this color layer. So we are blurring them out, just so the only information that is remaining on this layer is just color. Let me take that again. The reason why we are blurring out this layer is because we don't want details in this layer. Remember, we are trying to separate our image into two distinct layers, color and texture. So for one layer, we want color, and for the other layer, we want texture. So for this our color layer, we are blurring the image so as to enable us eliminate texture or details and retain only color. With that being said, go to our next layer. This layer is the layer I want to have just texture. So let's rename it texture. We'll turn it on. Now, remember, we've not done anything. We've only just renamed this layer texture. So what we want to do is, in this layer, we've subtracted texture. So it's just color. Now in this layer, we need to subtract color. So we'll just have texture. Let's dive straight into it. So we are going to achieve this by going to image, apply image. Now this is already set. It can be anywhere around here. It can be in normal. But remember, we are trying to subtract color from this texture layer. So what we are going to do is we change our blend mode to subtract. What are we subtracting? We are subtracting the layer color. Scale at 2, offset at 128. Click OK. Now when you click OK, it comes out like this. No need to panic. What you have to do is to just go to this blend mode and change it to linear light. And that's all. Now I'm looking at this image to know if what we've done is correct. Let's group these two layers together and let's rename it frequency separation. Right, that is frequency separation. Okay, with that being said, remember every image is made up of two components, texture and color. Now we've been able to separate this our image, or this our background image, into two components, texture and color, which is to say the combination of those two images or those two layers, texture and color, should give us the exact image that was found in the background. So this is a group that comprises of those two layers, texture and color. So if we turn this our background layer, let's zoom into the face so that you see what I'm saying. If okay, that's about here is good. So if we turn this our background layer off, there is no change. If we turn this off, the frequency separation off, there is no change. The image still remains the same. But if we now turn this our background layer off, open this group and turn our texture off, see, we only have the color layer visible, so the image is blur. If we turn our texture layer on and turn our color layer off, we see what we have here is just texture. See those sharp edges? Just texture, no color, just texture. But the combination of the texture and the color layer is what will give us the replica, the exact replica of our background layer. So with that being said, we move into our next phase, which is our retouching proper. So before I start retouching, I like to duplicate um, my layers, both the color and texture layer, just in case of a mistake, I can just easily delete them. So what I do is I go to color layer, duplicate by pressing Ctrl J or Command J, hold down alternate. You hold down alternate, you see that arrow changes. Hold down alternate and clip it to this layer. Go to my texture layer, duplicate my texture layer. Now the mistake some people make is after duplicating their texture layer and they just clip it like this, it becomes very sharp. What you do is you don't want that. You want to retain the image information the way it is. So after clipping it, you see the image becomes very, very sharp. You go to your linear light and change it to normal. And there we go. We have our image looking exactly like the one in the background. So the first step is to take out blemishes. And I like doing this by using there are various number of tools you can use to take out blemishes. You can use the patch tool, the spot healing brush tool. My most favorite tool is the close stamp tool when taking out blemishes. Whichever one works for you, fine. The patch tool in taking out blemishes, it just works by cycling the blemish you want to take or selecting around the blemish you want to take, drag it out to a much smoother or finer area of the picture. Now we just Ctrl Z, undo all those, or you can use your spot healing brush. Spot healing brush, you just make the size of your spot healing brush should just be um almost equal to the size of the blemish you intend to take. You keep the blemish in the center of the spot healing brush and you click, and just like that, it's gone. It's quite very easy. Many people use this because it is convenient. Okay. While if I want to use the clone stamp tool, what I do is I go to the clone stamp tool, click it. The shortcut for the clone stamp tool, by the way, is S. The shortcut for any of this other tool here, either the spot healing brush, the patch tool, context aware move tool, is H, or is J, sorry. We just click J. Then we want to interchange. Let's say it's clicked here. This is the spot healing brush, and I want to change it to another brush. If J is selected, just hold Shift and press J, and you see it is now changing inside the same tool. But I want to use my clone stamp tool, so I click on S, and it's normal opacity 100, flow at 100. So what I do is to use this clone stamp tool, what you have to do is you click an area of the picture that is finer, you like the texture, and use it to paint over your blemish. So I click around here and I just You hold alternate to sample that area you want to paint your blemish over with. You hold alternate, you see it changes. You click and you go to your blemish, you paint over it. Alternate, you click to your blemish, paint over it. As simple as ABC. So, with that being said, we just do that. See, her face is quite, she has a very nice skin texture, not a lot of blemishes. So, take that out as well. Avoid doing too much in order not to lose details in your pictures. Just browse around, look for blemishes, and now when taking out blemishes, avoid key components. I don't know, anyway, best suited for you, but if I'm editing a client's picture and I see stuff like tribal marks and stuff like that, avoid taking them off because um it makes you lose a very key component in your client's image. The tribal mark is an identity of an individual, except on request. Avoid taking that off as well. Just a little tip there for you. So I think this is quite good. Not much to do. We're done taking our blemishes. So the next step is to start retouching our image. Now we retouch. Remember we took our blemishes out on the texture layer. This layer must be active. Take our blemishes. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to retouch our image. So to smoothen out rough areas of our image and make her skin look uniform, we'll go to our color layer. Now let me show you a technique for beginners out there that have not actually mastered using the mixer brush tool. If you want to retouch your picture, just select your mixer brush tool. Select your mixer brush tool. These are the settings I use mostly. I like keeping it at 30, 30. My mix at 60, and my flow at 30. Very simple. It will help you to retouch lots of job perfectly. So this is very nice. It helps you retouch your jobs perfectly. So with that being said, if your mixer brush is showing like this, let's say this is clicked and it's showing any of these colors, what you have to do is you click on this drop down button here and select clean brush, then you deselect this first brush. When you select it, only this is active. Keep it at custom, wet 30, load 30, mix 60, flow at 30. Simple. All right. So the next step is we'll start mixing. Now, a common mistake people do is while mixing or using your mixer brush to retouch your pictures, they drag um colors anyhow, they mix colors anyhow, and if you do that, you can easily disfigure your client or the image you are retouching. So what you do is a simple technique you do is you paint dark areas differently, you paint light areas differently. Now, on the luminance scale, we have in terms of color, image color, we have shadow, midtones, and highlights. Shadow, midtones, and highlights. Shadow are the areas that are dark in your picture. Highlights are the areas that are very bright in your picture, while the midtones are the areas that are in between the dark areas, which are the shadows, and the light areas, which are the highlights of your pictures. Now, while using a mixer brush to mix, you mix these areas independently. For example, see this area on our forehead. This very point here is an highlight because it is a very bright area of her forehead. Now, towards the extreme here is a shadow because it is darker, and in between this shadow and the highlights is our midtones. So to be very wrong while mixing, you now start mixing from here and you're dragging your brush like this. See, it is opening her forehead. It will make it look large because you are generally exposing more surface area of our forehead to light by dragging um, highlights into midtones and shadows. So what you have to do is you mix your highlights independently, midtones independently, shadows independently. And the second thing you have to do is you paint according to the direction of your skin. Now I've given you two tips on how to use a mixer brush. First, you mix your highlights independently, your shadows independently, your midtones independently. Avoid dragging from highlight to shadows, from shadows to midtones, and vice versa. The second technique is paint according to the direction of the skin texture. Now, if I want to mix this area on our forehead, I can easily mix it in a circular pattern. Why? Because this highlight on our forehead is looking like a circle. To avoid it spreading to other parts, I just use a little brush to open and mix that place. Now, you don't want your brush to be too big. If your brush is too big like this, see what is happening there? You are mixing too much and you are dragging your highlights. You just want your brush to be almost the same size as the area you are trying to mix. Good. So now this other area of our skin, the midtones, I cannot be mixing them in a circle like this too. What I do is you mix according to the direction of her skin texture. Now let me do a little chart for you to help you. Let's say I'm just going to give you the skin texture flow so that you know how to mix. Now I'm going to use the white brush. This you paint in circular pattern. This you paint in this pattern. You paint this other direction. Here you paint like this. Avoid dragging it down here too much. Forward and backward motion, not too much. This will help you know how you're painting. Now this area, the same for this area. These arrows is just showing you how your mixer brush should move, not necessarily painting it um, in that manner. All right, so this will give us a little chart on how our mixer brush should move. So if we are here, I select my mixer brush and I'm painting this area. What I do is the circle I paint in a circular pattern. I come to this point, you see, you paint the same pattern. It might not be looking like much, but if you turn this off and on, you see the little changes you've been able to, get in this image. So we'll just continue paint in that direction. the same. Remember, don't drag your highlights to your midtones, don't drag your shadows to your midtones, and vice versa. And avoid too many multiple clicks in dragging, as it will smoothen out details too much from your images. Just careful. The mixer tool is a very interesting tool, but it's also very dangerous because if you don't know how to use it, it can easily damage your images. Not too much. Now see, let's turn this off. This is not looking like much. When we turn this off and on, we see the changes we've done. We've not dragged our highlights to our shadows. We've just been able to, maintain um, the same level of luminance in terms of colors in that image. So let's continue. See, this area is very light, so we paint it individually before we come to this other section of the image. Just, not too much, gently, gently. You don't want your pictures to be looking overly edited, you know. All right, all right. So we'll just move, and not too much. Like I said, avoid doing too much, but at the same time, just do sufficient enough to see those beautiful changes, subtle but very meaningful changes in our image. So we'll continue mixing them carefully. Avoid dragging colors. Avoid dragging colors. Okay. All right. It's nice and slow. There's no need to be in a hurry. You can take it as easy as you like. It is better to take your time and get a good result than to hurry and at the end of the day you have a bad job. So just take your time, smoothen out her skin, give very soft touch. Yeah, all right. Very subtle. Does not look like much, but if you turn this off and on, see, that's good right there. Okay, so you turn this off and on. I mean, off and on, and you see, if we turn our frequency separation off and see the beautiful work we've been able to do, still maintaining our normal skin texture and all. Just take out these blemishes Yeah, and that's good right there. All right. So that's all said and done. All right. It might take you longer than this to, retouch this picture, but whatever you do, just try to follow those little steps and you're good to go. So, like I said, it's a full tutorial. So, our next step is to be doing dodge and burn.